You know what? It's been almost, 2 weeks since we learned the chapter 10.
Right.
Chapter 10 explained us what a tzaddik is, what a righteous man is. And a righteous man is someone who is able to overcome his evil and does not have evil within him. Hi, Marie. Bonjour. A tzaddik is someone who is who's usually born with that potential. Maybe he's not born a tzaddik, but born with that potential. It's not a given. It's not for everybody. But we still, the chapter 10, the Tanya still explains us about a tzaddik, because within us, we each have a little tzaddik. Or to understand a tzaddik, to understand the people, the leaders we look up to that are righteous or holy, the chapter explains different levels, the two levels of the tzaddik. Okay? There's a tzaddik that completely removed his evil within him. He has no evil within him, not even a trace. He's called tzaddik gamur. Tzaddik, a complete tzaddik, and tzaddik v'tovlo, a tzaddik that only has good. And then there's another tzaddik. Now, he's also on a super high level, one that we cannot understand or reach. But he's called tzaddik she'eno gamur, a tzaddik virale, a tzaddik that has a little bit of bad, that's incomplete, but the bad is so minute, it's probably, how do you call, batel b'shishim, it's canceled. Okay, there's a halacha. Remember, we learned batel b'shishim when there's a little drop of milk that goes into a soup that's meat. If it's 1/60th, it does not make it. If it's more than that, it will make the whole thing not kosher. So it's really a little bit of evil that even he doesn't feel it. He doesn't know. How do we know the difference? How is it expressed? The different tzaddikim is in their hate. Is when a tzaddik loves so much, a tzaddik that loves God and that is 100% for godliness and holiness, he develops a hate towards anything that's not holy, that's not godly, that is evil, that is from the other side. And a tzaddik gamur, his hate will be complete, or will be felt, will be stronger against anything that is evil, and that's not God, that's sitra achra, that's the other side. But a tzaddik she'eno gamur, a tzaddik that's not complete, a tzaddik that has a little bit of bad, that he doesn't feel it, but his hate is not going to be as the hate of the tzaddik. Okay, so that's what the chapter 10 explains, the difference between the tzaddikim and the difference in their love of God and their hate. It's mainly expressed in the hate. Now, I had that class bothered me. For the last 2 weeks, I've been bothered by how is a tzaddik, someone who's so holy. When I think of a tzaddik, I think of someone so holy that is above perfection, that is closest to perfection. How can he have hate? How can we even have hate? What does hate mean? So I looked more into it. It really bothered me, especially now that we do feel a lot of hate. I've been feeling a lot of hate the past 2 weeks, actually, when we learned. So I wanted to understand, what's the Torah's view on hate? What does hate mean? And how can, is there such a thing as good hate? Is there a hate that brings goodness, if you want, that brings something positive? And I found
hate.
Sin'a. Sin'a, c'est hate. C'est la haine, exactement. Sin'a. So very, very interesting what I found. I'm going to tell you the sources. So there's 3 different sources. It's pretty similar. No, there's 2 main sources, and then but the second one is divided into 2. Okay, so I'm going to bring you different times in the Torah where the Torah tells you to hate or talks about hate, the emotion. You have to understand that every emotion that we have can either be used for the good or for the bad. Okay, every emotion we have can either be used for the good or for the bad. If it's used for the good, then it's a constructive emotion. But if it's used for the bad, it obviously destroys. Okay, and just love can be, either destructive or constructive, depending on how you use it. So too with hate. If you want to have good love, then it automatically you have to have some hate. Okay. And now let's understand, what does hate mean. So now hate is a big word. Dorit gave me a face. You guys missed it. Such a face. Okay. And I had the same attitude when I read that. I'm like, how am I going to teach them? For me, my whole life, I'm like about love and about compassion and about kindness and about understanding. That's what the Torah teaches us. And that's the whole basis of the Torah. Do you know that the whole Torah, there was this non-Jew that came to Hillel, and he asked Hillel, first he went to the other rabbi, Hillel and, oh my God, why did I forget his name? Hillel and I have to, it's going to come to me. The other rabbi, they had two different ways of living their life. So he went to, this non-Jew comes, knocks on the rabbi's door, or his place where he learned with his students. He said, excuse me, can you teach me the Torah while standing on one foot? Okay, basically really quickly, like what the point. And this rabbi is obviously very strict and wasn't as open-minded. He said, I'm sorry, I'm too busy. I cannot, or not even. He said, I cannot teach you the Torah on one foot. And he didn't answer him. So he went to Hillel. Hillel was a more, I don't know if open-minded is the word, but more loving. He had a different way of saying things. And, oh wait, my sister-in-law wants to join. I just want to see. Were you able to join? Sorry, I know she wanted to join my class. So sorry. So back to Hillel. So he came to Hillel and he asked Hillel, he said, can you teach me the Torah on one foot? And Hillel, what did he answer him? Do not do to others what you don't like to be done to yourself. This is the basis of the Torah. The whole basis of the Torah, and Rabbi Akiva says it too, is to love your fellow just like yourself. So how can a Torah who's based on love, whose whole, the fundamental of the Torah is love and respect for the other, how can hate exist? How can it be hate? How can it be that a tzad who loves God and his Torah have hate? What does hate mean? Let's understand, what does hate mean, okay? So this is a side note. This is really not, I mean, a lot of it comes in the Tanya, is from the Tanya, but some sources I got from other places. And it's really, for me, it was important to understand hate, so I feel like I want to share it with you. So first of all, I want you to know that in the Tanya, chapter 32 in Hebrew is Lamed Bet. Lamed Bet stands for Lev, for heart. Chapter 32 talks all about, hi Sterna, talks all about loving your fellow Jew and all about love. And in that chapter, in that same chapter says, if you love your fellow Jew, how come in the Torah it says that you should hate a sinner? Okay, it says that you should hate a sinner. And that's where I'm going to just explain quickly what hate and love is according to the Torah. Okay? So, I'm going to tell you first the sources, and then I'm going to explain you. So there's one source is the famous source of Amalek. It says that you should remember what Amalek did to you, and you should erase him and destroy him. He should not be, okay? Zacharet es asher aseh lecha Amalek. You should remember Amalek was a nation that attacked the Jewish people right after they left Egypt. They were on a high. They had that innocent faith in God, and they really came, even if they knew that they wouldn't win, they came just to ruin that excitement that the Jews had, and they lost. But God said, don't ever forget them. This is evil. Amalek is evil. They are represented today in the psychologically. They represent the doubt. Anything that tries to stop the fire and excitement in anything. You want to do something, suddenly your doubt comes. So anything that is Amalek, okay? Anything that wants to ruin that excitement, that passion for something good, it comes, that is Amalek. We don't forget it, we erase it, okay? So for me, it's not exactly hate, but it's a form of hate. is by erasing it, by remembering it to erase it, because we can't forget something. Because if we forget it, we come at peace with evil. So we constantly have to remember it in order to fight it. So that's the first part where it kind of talks about hate, okay? Because erasing, removing. Second part and third part, there's two different places that says that you should hate a sinner. I'm not going to bring you the pasuk because it's in Hebrew. And another part where God commands us to hate wickedness. Okay?
Wickedness?
Wickedness.
La faiblesse?
No, wickedness means, how do you say wickedness in French?
Méchanceté ou...
La méchanceté.
Ouais.
Wickedness.
Okay? So in the Tanya, it says, how can you tell us to love your fellow Jew, to love and to, and hate at the same time, right? You have that contradiction. Okay, yeah, we'll start with that one. So how can you love and hate at the same time? So what does love do? Love wants you to be more connected to someone, wants you to be, it binds you, it connects you to a person. What does hate do? Hate removes you, pushes you away from a person. Okay? Healthy hating. Healthy hating is when you see someone, or you have, you see someone who has wickedness inside of them. So you put your healthy boundaries, you keep away from those, from that side, that wickedness. Okay? Now, the way to do it in a healthy way is that inside your heart, you have to love the person. Always love the person. You can't have hate if you don't love the person. So loving is a must. It only comes with love. And outwardly, you have to hate the person by either rebuking them or putting them or speaking up for what you see that's wrong, or putting boundaries and keeping away if you feel like you're going to be influenced by whatever it is. Okay?
So it's selfish. It's to protect yourself, even if you're gonna hurt someone else by
No,
pushing them
when
away.
you push them away, it's selfish for you. Well,
It's selfish.
but also that's why if you want to do something good for them, you rebuke them. If you see someone harming themselves, okay, instead of hating them, let's say, or doing, you stick up and you tell them what you
no, but
think.
you just say you have to
No, so there's different
move
ways of
away.
hating. There's
Okay.
different ways of hating, okay? If someone doesn't know how to stick up for themselves, or if someone's really harmful, sometimes family members could be really harmful,
Yeah.
okay? So you love them deep
Yeah.
inside, but you know they're harming you, then you have to outwardly hate them and put boundaries and keep away from them.
But
You're
what
not
if you hate
harming them.
What's the
No,
point
so
of
that's,
hating them?
so
You're
hate,
speaking about family members.
so
that's
let me explain you what hate means according to Torah. Hate, no. So we are not haters. We are not haters. I want to explain
It's
it.
the opposite of a Jewish soul for me.
So let me-
Completely opposite.
So let me again, you have to listen
Right.
with a different ear, because hate in the Torah is not the same hate that you know.
So define it.
So let me define hate. Hate in the Torah means putting healthy boundaries to something that is evil, to move away from
Someone,
evil,
not something.
from
We're
someone,
talking about people,
someone
individuals.
or something. Okay, it could be a
Something
situation.
is okay, but
It could be a
someone-
situation. So someone. So that's hard. So how could you say you hate someone? Okay. So first of all, if there's no love, you can't hate anyone.
C'est vrai, ça, je suis d'accord.
Okay, that's 100. If there's no love, then you cannot hate. It's a false hate. It's a destructive hate, and it's a hate that will only bring bad things. Okay, so it has to be with love. What is constructive or healthy hating? Okay, it's when you use outwardly actions that will push away. Okay. The evil, that will push away the evil. I'm trying to use the right words so it doesn't sound bad, okay? You use outwardly actions that are not loving, okay? That means you use the gvura. A Hebrew word for hate could be the gvura. You use the pushing away, because pushing away is hate automatically. It's not loving, it's not bringing close. You use those for the best of that person and for the best of you, okay? Because automatically if someone's harmful, you want to.
But even if the person is not conscious or she's not ready to move
So
to
that's
another level, so wait.
so-
So you are hurting the person because it's rejecting to
Okay.
to feel hate for someone.
For
so
sure.
You're gonna
So-
reject I cannot remember anyone around.
So let me tell you,
Jewish
first of all,
community.
it's talking about okay, let me continue.
Especially
Wait,
you,
there's so
Papa.
much to talk. We're not talking about, okay. So what does it mean when you talk about a sinner? We're talking about someone who's knowledgeable. Okay, it says it in the Tanya. A sinner, the pasuk says it has to be someone who's knowledgeable, who learned Torah, who knows everything, and who was warned and purposely did something bad on purpose, even after we warned them. We're not talking about people who are not knowledgeable in Torah, those are not called sinners. Sinners is someone who does something purposely after knowing what's right and wrong, and after being warned. Okay. So it's really, I'm just trying to explain you where hate comes in, why the Torah tells us to hate. That person should be hated, but not inwardly. Outwardly should be either rebuked, should be put borders, it's healthy. It's called healthy hating. Okay, so we're not talking about someone who's innocent or who doesn't know better. And okay, so it's very, very important too. It is a fine line, but at the same time, and it's important you guys listen, at the same time, I believe that if someone doesn't have healthy hating, they cannot love healthy. Just like someone who loves healthily will automatically have healthy hating. Why? Let me just read you a quote. I got so many quotes so you can understand better.
So you buy this idea? You buy it or not? Seriously?
So first of all, I read a lot about it, and yes, I understood. And the more you learn about it, the more you try to understand, the more. So it says, if you love God's world, you don't feed love to the forces that will destroy it. Okay? Again, I'm going to repeat it. If you love God's world, and God, of course, you don't feed love to the forces that will destroy it. Anything that destroys something good, something holy, you can't feed it love, because then you're becoming evil just like the person. So that's exactly what it is. Okay, so there's in the macrocosm is loving God, and anything that destroys God's worlds and God's creation, we have to hate, we have to distance ourselves, we have to speak up, we have to rebuke, we have to stand up. Okay, I don't need to give examples because it's kind of obvious. And in our own microcosm world, any person or any emotions that are destroying us, that are bringing harm to us, we have to hate. How do you hate? First of all, by seeing the good in them and loving them firstly, and by knowing that by hating them, what does hating mean? By pushing them away and putting distance, it will do good for you and it will do good for them. Okay? And healthy boundaries brings goodness to you and to the people around you. Some people you can love, but if you don't have healthy boundaries automatically, a boundary is hate. It's the opposite of love. A boundary is the opposite of love. It's pushing away. It's blocking. So that's in the Torah. That's what hate represents. It's putting a boundary. It's pushing away. Sometimes you need to push away things that are not healthy and that are harming either you or themselves, because like it says, he who is compassionate to the cruel ends up being cruel to the compassionate. Okay, when you're compassionate, when you're giving the goodness to a person who doesn't deserve it, in the end you're being cruel to people that do deserve it. I'm going to try to bring more examples. Okay, let me try to think of an example. Okay, for example, let's give it on a psychological level. Okay, you're so excited about something, right? You're excited, let's say, to do this diet. Okay, you Cheryl, I think Marie is also doing, or you're motivated, whatever it is, and you have these doubts that come in. Amalek, you have Amalek coming in, these doubts coming in. You could either love these doubts or listen to them and embrace them, or you can hate them and push them away. Okay? Yeah. That too exists in your life too. Sometimes there's people that are not having a good effect on you. And if they're not having a good effect on you, they're not having a good effect on them.
100%.
I found in my life sometimes by putting boundaries, which is automatically hate, I was better and the other person was better.
100%.
So that's
But
what
the link that I don't buy is that this person that you're trying to push away is because is not a holy person or is
no,
not
it didn't
close to
say
God.
holy. It didn't
No,
say
mais
no.
bah, à Sophie,
It said
alors,
an evil doing person.
an
What is an
evil-doing
evil
person,
doing?
c'est pas ça, moi,
Wickedness,
bah,
sinners, wickedness. What is that? What are sinners and what are wickedness? Are people that know about the Torah, that are well versed, and that on purpose don't
Alors,
do.
what's that film that I saw on Netflix? Là, j'ai oublié le titre. Que la personne, elle a quitté le milieu des racistes.
Unorthodox?
Yes.
That is nothing.
Would
First of
you
all, that's a
hate her?
movie.
Would you hate her? No, it's not. Even if it's a movie, it's
First
a
of all,
real story.
no. Okay, so wait, I didn't finish. The Tanya goes on to say that if you see your sinner, your enemy, suffering or having a heavy load, you must go out of your way and help that person. Okay. So even if you hate that person, it's not hating as in you have to distance yourself or you have to create rivalry or you have to create boundaries. You have to, it's for yourself.
What is boundaries for Tanya?
What is boundaries for the Tanya? Well, what is love for the Tanya?
No, because you set up boundaries. For me,
Well,
boundaries, you cannot enter my bubble. You're outside. I don't want you in my
Well,
life.
there's different, no,
Boundaries.
there's
So what
different
is it?
kind of boundaries, no.
Alors, bah, c'est ça.
There's healthy
From the
boundaries
start.
and there's unhealthy boundaries,
So we
okay?
need to know what it is.
So when the
Anyways,
person,
I don't hate anyone. Like, I'm not-
no, but we have to you know what? I have that same, I don't know if you heard Dorit. Dorit's like, I don't want to hate anyone. This is not for me. I had the same, I don't want to hate anyone. I don't have hate in my heart, okay? But when you understand what healthy hating is, then you can really love someone. I really believe that.
It's the opposite of love.
It's the opposite of love. What is love? Love is the wanting to connect, wanting to be closer to someone, and hate is pushing away.
Yeah.
Now, the only way the Torah tells us to push away from someone is for evil. Anything that's evil, we have to push away. Anything that's evil. It's not the person itself. It's the evil action within them. The evil within them you push away. Okay, so how do you do that? After, I can't go into details. There's different ways of doing it, but you disconnect to the evil within that person and you connect to the good. In that movie, first of all, I don't rely. It's not a real story. It's not the real story. But I know if someone in my community who was a kid and grew up religious and who left, a kid doesn't know. There's obviously more issues to it. You don't not love a person because they weren't educated in Torah. She had a dysfunctional background. The real story, she had a dysfunctional background. You can't connect those people that to what I'm talking about. I'm talking about evil people
non,
who
parce que
are.
moi, elle est devenue le evil. Donc,
She's
on doit
not
la
the
haïr et la
evil.
rejeter parce
No.
qu'elle l'a rejetée, elle est allée.
That's not how Chabad sees things. We don't reject.
Tu
No,
comprends?
that's not evil.
Exactly. That's why
But that's not evil. But that's
I
not
don't
evil. People
understand.
confuse what evil is.
Alors, je suis désolée. Alors, j'ai
Evil
mal
is
compris.
really, I don't know how many people are evil today that really exist, okay? Evil are purposely doing harm to something or someone or not with knowledge, okay? You know, Tara, your purpose. When she left, she just had a dysfunctional life. She left, whatever it is.
Mais
It had
elle voulait de la
nothing.
liberté, toi.
No, she had a dysfunctional life. She had a father who was crazy. She had her mother
Mais
who
c'est
ran
pas
away.
la seule, ça, on va pas rentrer dans ce sujet. C'est
But
pas la
I'm
seule.
not. But
Pas la
most
seule.
people that leave
Don't
have
defend what
dysfunction.
is not defendable.
No.
It's not the
I'm
only
not
one
defending.
in this world, and it exists. Like,
Can I
for
just
sure.
explain something?
Yeah.
Can I just
Bien
explain
sûr.
something? Liberté, first of all, is a big word. I don't want to go into it because this class is
About hate.
is about hate. But liberté, most people that leave their upbringing are usually come from a dysfunctional background. And what they're leaving is a dysfunctionality.
We're all dysfunctional in some point.
No,
Like,
there's
no one
dysfunctional.
is-
When I mean dysfunctional, I mean
Yeah.
there's abuse involved. There's
Okay.
lots of things. So that's important to know. But so you don't never hate someone who's innocent, who was abused. No way.
Mhm.
So that's why it's important to understand. First of all, I think it's interesting that we talk about these subjects because in most religion, they're not even going to approach. No, we don't have hate.
C'est
We don't.
vrai,
I
it's
think
taboo.
I said, you know what? I could either make it taboo and like not talk about it, but I think it's important to face reality. It's important to face a real emotion and not to fake it. People that inwardly hate and outwardly love, is against the Torah. The Torah says it's better to love. It's better to love inwardly someone and to outwardly hate. What does outwardly hate means? That if someone is not, you can love them, but they're doing harm to you. And by being loving to them, by acting loving to them, is only bringing harm to you, then it's bringing harm to themselves. And then outwardly, you must hate them and you must put boundaries. That's what I'm talking about. And that we can't deny. I'm not talking about
why they decide to choose this word that is so strong and just don't say put boundaries and keep away from.
But that's what the real
people.
No, the real word hate. That's what it is. That's what you have to face those emotions.
Did you ever felt that?
I felt, well, not the real hate. I don't know, maybe I did once, but I don't have hate in my heart. But when I read what the Tanya said, yes, I have times where I don't want to be close to someone. And that's called hate. Anything. So the Tanya says it's a different, that's what I'm saying. In Tanya, we define hate differently. The minute hate consumes you to wanting to destroy, that's where you know that it's unhealthy. That's where you know that you keep away. And that's where you can see today, for me, terrorists, I didn't want to bring it, but I'm going to bring it. But they define the unhealthy hate, where they're doing it for God. They love God so much that anything that's not God for them, they literally kill. But that's really what they think. I watched videos of Muslims who were sharing things, and I realized that they're just brainwashed to think that anyone who's not Muslim is evil. And that's not what the Torah teaches us. Never. There's never hate that will consume us. Anything that's evil, you push away, you fight, you stick up, you express hate in a healthy way. That is healthy hate. And to deny that feeling, in the end, you're going to be not loving, and you're going to be doing more harm to yourself and to the others by saying, oh, I feel so bad for this person, they're just brainwashed. No, you have to hate those people. How do you hate? By sticking up for yourself, by putting boundaries, by rebuking. Okay, that is healthy hating. And the reason why I did this class is because sometimes as Jews, we are so loving, we're so kind, and we only want that sometimes we forget about that emotion of hate. And I think sometimes we're stepped over, and sometimes we're hurt because of that. And if we learned to use that emotion of hate in a healthy way without destroying anyone. Okay, remember the Bet HaMikdash was destroyed because of sinat chinam, free hate. Free hate is not allowed. Hate that comes from love, that means you love the person so much, you know that you have to keep away from that person, is a very healthy hate, and it is very important. Hating something that is evil, like Amalek, like doubt, like anything that's out there to destroy you, is healthy, because the minute you don't hate, you embrace it, and that's when you embrace evil, and that's when you're stepped on, and it brings a lot of harm to you and to the world. So I thought it was very, very important to explain hate and the meaning, the healthy meaning of hate, and to understand why the Torah brings it, why the Torah bases everything on love. The fundamental of the Torah is love, but if you want healthy love, you have to have that balance of hate. And how? Is you see it with the tzaddik. He loves God so much that anything that's not godly, anything that's from the other side, he hates. How does that tzaddik hate? He loves his creation. He loves God. Any human being he sees, he loves, because he sees the beauty in it. But he knows how to push away the evil within that person, without any creation. And that's why tzaddikim, who are on such a high level, are able to really make changes in nature. And people, when people came to the Rebbe, he was able to bring out so much goodness in people, because he brought out the good, he brought closer the good and pushed away the bad. He loved the good in the people he saw in Hashem's creation and whatever it was, and he pushed away evil. He hated evil. So yes, hate is a big word, and unfortunately that we know most of the time is we know destructive hate. We know hate that pushes away people, that's senseless and that's destructive, that's free. But we don't know enough of people who hate in the right way, who hate out of love and who hate out of healthy and constructive reasons. And the Torah brings a pasuk. There's a pasuk that says, if you see your enemy's donkey lying under its load, and you refrain from helping him, right? Because he's your enemy, you must certainly help him. And the Torah explains that if your enemy lost an object, or if you see like the donkey of an animal under, you see someone you don't like suffering and overloaded, you have to go out of your way and help them. So even if we have to make borders and hate, we still have to go out of our way to help those people and bring out the good and spread goodness. Okay? Any questions on this? Cheryl, Marie, Dorit. I know Dorit has a hard time. Dorit's such a loving person. I know it's hard.
No, ça va. It's interesting to debate.
It was hard for me, and that's why I did the research. And when I know I could do more research, and I hope I gave it over, but it's something that we can expand. There's a whole, when we get to chapter 32, it talks more about it, and I'll expand it. And before we go to the paper that I made, the stencil, I just want to read something. Never make peace with evil. Evil has the guarantee to... Never make peace with evil, because that's the guarantee to not forgetting what Amalek did to us. Okay, so we can't forget what evil did to us, and we can't make peace. That's why it says Zachar es asher lecha asa Amalek. Remember what Amalek did to you, and don't forget it, because that will guarantee that we will fight evil. And eventually, when Mashiach comes, evil won't exist, and we won't need to hate anymore. We won't need to fight. We won't need to push away anything, because evil won't exist. Oh, and another thing that I saw interesting was that compassion, by being compassionate, it banishes hatred and it arouses love. So when you see something bad, or when you feel that feeling of hate, let's say, or you see something bad in somebody else, give that person compassion. By giving that person compassion, it will banish hatred. That means it will banish the evil, and it will bring out the good. So that's also another way of fighting evil within a person.
Compassion banishes hatred and what?
Compassion banishes hatred and arouses love.
Arouses love. So it's good or not good?
Yeah, it's very good. You have to use compassion. How do you fight? How do you fight someone who's evil or who's wicked or whatever it is? By being compassionate and trying to bring.
But compassion and hate are not going together.
No, but you could. Do you know that you can love and hate someone at the same time?
Oh, hi. Je suis la spécialiste.
So how do you do it in a healthy way? So that's what that's compassion. By compassion, by pushing away, by having borders, strong borders. You don't have to show love, but you love them inside, and you use your outwardly hate, let's say, whatever it is, borders. Okay, for every situation is different. I can't tell you, but at the same time, we have to remember that being compassionate to the cruel, in the end, can make us be cruel to the compassionate. So it's really a balance of knowing, what do you push away completely, and what it's and that's what I think a tzaddik is really there for. He can see clearly what is good and what is bad, and he can do that. Us as simple people, I can't see who's good, who's evil. I can't see that, but I know that if I feel that there's someone or something that is bringing me down or that is harming me, I will outwardly hate them, which is putting boundaries. I know you don't like that word.
No.
That is the word that the Tanya used, okay?
Parce que moi, ça dit que j'ai des noms en tête comme Shimon Bar Yochai, comme Baba Salé. Je suis comme, attends, est-ce que ces gens-là auraient pu me haïr parce que je connais la Torah, mais je l'applique pas?
Non, d'abord, tu connais pas la Torah.
Non,
et deuxièmement, non, you don't know it.
I'm taking class with
But
you.
you don't know it. You're not. We're talking about big
At that
knowledgeable.
level,
No.
okay.
Do you know that? So Dorit said a very nice example because she thinks she's evil. I don't know why she thinks she's evil. She's crazy.
We are all.
No, you're not. We're not. We're evil, but we're not the evil. We have evil within us. We're not. We have good within us too. We have good within us too. When we're talking about really, we're talking about evil actions, evil deeds, and really evil people are who are out there too. You know, there's not. Unfortunately, there are that exist, and I think those people should be treated with hate.
In Jewish people,
I don't know in Jewish people, no, but I see it in the world. I mean, people that are out there killing merciless, for me, that's evil. Like, why should we give them compassion?
No,
people should stick up for them and should eradicate it completely. That's what I'm talking when I mean evil. And then if there's people Jews that do sin, then you don't hate them, you love them, and you know how to put boundaries, healthy boundaries. But there was a story because she said, imagine Baba Sali, does he hate me? No, he doesn't. All these tzaddikim, they love you. There was a big tzaddik actually, Rabbi Meir I think it was Rabbi Meir Balanes. He had robbers that were coming to his house to steal, and he obviously was a huge tzaddik. He prayed for them to die. He was going to pray for them to die, and his wife, Bruria, when she heard that, she said, don't pray for them to die. They're Jews, and they're good people. Just pray for their sins to die. So he listened to his wife, and he prayed for their sins to die. And in the end, they regretted stealing from him, and they came back, and they did tshuva, and they became his pupils. So it's not the person, it's the action. Okay, but we're definitely, even if we're rasha, according to the Tanya, we're not evil people. You should not see yourself as an evil person at all.
Marie, tu n'as pas de questions? Je suis surprise.
Attends, I think there's a question in the chat. It's so interesting, but I have to go. Next time I'll listen to the whole thing. Okay, that's my sister-in-law was here quickly. Okay, so now I'm going to share with you the paper. I need to fix my printer. I didn't print it. Je l'ai pas imprimé. I'm so sorry. Mais si tu veux, tu peux le voir et je vais l'imprimer juste après. Okay, do you guys see?
Yes.
Okay, so we're just going to review the chapter 10 before going into the next chapter. I wrote chapter 9, but it's chapter 10 actually. Okay. Uvi'arta hara mikir b'cha. Okay, that's a pasuk that I took from the Tanya that says, and you will remove the bad, and he removed the bad from within him. Okay, and then I asked the question, what makes someone a tzaddik? How do we know what is a tzaddik? What is a tzaddik? And it's related to the pasuk that I said, Uvi'arta hara mikir b'cha, and he will remove.
Someone that removed the evil?
Exactly, someone who removed the evil within him. Okay. Now, in a tzaddik, there's two levels. Tzaddik she'eno gamor. What's tzaddik she'eno gamor? What's tzaddik she'eno gamor?
He didn't remove
It's a tzaddik that's not complete. Okay, so you can write. It's a tzaddik that's not complete. And tzaddik virala is, why is he called this? Because his bad is completely submissive to him. That means it's so little that he can't even feel the bad within him. Okay, so that's an incomplete tzaddik who has so little bad, but it's still there. Okay, but it's within him, virala, it's to him. That means it's completely submitted to him. Okay?
Which one is the incomplete?
Tzaddik she'eno gamor and tzaddik virala is the same thing. It's the incomplete. Tzaddik, it's a tzaddik that his bad is to him, it's submissive, it's so small, it's really batel b'shishim, but it's there. Okay? Okay, there's a pasuk that David HaMelech says, okay, who said this and about what and who? He says that I hate I hate all the sinners, and my enemies. I hate all my enemies. Check me and you will see my heart. Okay, he talks about that he hates anyone who's sinning against God and you can see in
David
his heart.
Amelach.
Yeah.
Ça, c'est le Tevin.
So David Amelach says it in Tehillim exactly. How can David Amelach, a king who is the king that represents Judaism, hate? How could he hate? Again, he's a tzaddik. He hates anything that's evil, any sinners who their actions are sinners, but it's someone who does it, a tzaddik who does it with a deep love for that person and for God. He hates the evil within them. He hates their evil action. And it's a healthy hating that is only constructive, and that's why David Amelach was able to be one of the biggest tzaddik recognized. Okay? Tzaddik v'tovla, tzaddik gamur. So a tzaddik, what's a tzaddik v'tovla, tzaddik gamur? It's a tzaddik that completely removes the bad. He has no more bad within him. He's a complete tzaddik. And obviously David Amelach was a complete tzaddik. And it's important to understand that a tzaddik's love, is like it feeds the world, it feeds us. It's very important, that's the love of a tzaddik. If he uses his love for things that are evil, then he's adding, it's like he's adding wood or charcoal to the fire. By him hating anything that's evil or any sinner's action, he's pushing away, he's doing good. Not only to himself, he's doing good something to God, but he's doing good to those people, because deep down, nobody wants that evil within them, okay? Did you hear what I said?
Sorry, my sister.
So, when a tzaddik's love, okay, you see how people are so connected to the Rebbe or any tzaddikim, because they're fed off that. The love of a tzaddik is so big, it's like a fire that feeds you.
Yeah.
If they take their love and they use it to feed evil actions, evil people, evil within people, then they're feeding and adding to that evilness. So by them hating evil, it's like pushing away, and it's like eliminating evil. David Amelach, we know, fought many wars. He fought evil. That was his part. So by him hating evil, that's his spiritual way of fighting the evil within people and helping us get to a different level. So it's important you understand what hating, when he says that I hated anyone who was sinners, you have to understand, what does that mean? What was the reason behind it?
Tu as amené une petite précision qui m'a un peu apaisée.
I have a question.
Ok, attends, Dorit,
c'est quand tu as dit, c'est pas la personne que tu haïs, c'est à
Exactement.
l'intérieur. Ça marche comme.
Yeah,
okay.
you don't hate
Tu as
the
le droit
person.
d'être un pécheur. C'est pas moi qu'on va haïr, c'est mes péchés qu'on va haïr. So
C'est comme une personne qui est pas gentille.
You know what I mean?
You don't hate that. Why should you hate someone? Let's say someone's annoying you. Why should you hate them? You hate what they're doing, but you shouldn't hate them. That's not healthy. That's free hate. So you should hate what they're doing, because whatever, it's destructive. Exactly. And that's healthy. That's healthy, because if you don't, then you're making peace with okay? Marie, yes, what did you want to say?
It's about David Amelach.
Yeah.
The question, you said he was a complete tzaddik. How can you be a complete tzaddik, even what happened to Uriah?
Yeah, so we discussed that already. That it only looked like a sin in our eyes, but he did not sin. He did not do anything wrong. But because a tzaddik is judged so much harder than regular people, so God punished him not for his sin, but for something that in our eyes, in regular people's eyes, looked like a sin. That's why he was punished. Not for sinning. He didn't do any sin. Okay, so he was a complete tzaddik, and we have to understand that. Okay, uve'inyan bitulo b'mutai b'shishim. What is the concept of batel b'shishim? So I just thought it was an interesting concept to understand, and I think this concept, why I love it so much and why I think it's important to understand it, is that God really gives us place to make mistakes. Batel b'shishim, to have a little bad, to make a little drop. It's in general in life is okay. There's sometimes where that little bad can be canceled by the goodness. Okay, so it's important to know that, and it's reassuring that we're humans, that we make, but as long as it's not bigger than 1/60th, when you do too much bad, that's when it's not a mistake. That's when it's exactly. That's when it's not a mistake. So what is the concept of batel beshishim? Is that mistake that God gives us space for making mistake, and it's important to know that because we're not perfect and we all make mistakes. And even a tzaddik can have that little bad within him, but it's annulled. He doesn't feel it. 1 sur 60. 1/60th. So that's the concept of batel beshishim. I think the more you learn Tanya and about your emotion, embracing emotion, it makes you so much more humane. By eliminating, by saying, I don't want hate in this world. I don't want hate at all for myself. Not in this world. I don't want hate ever. You're not giving your place to be human. You're not accepting who you are, that we have all these emotions. You have to face your emotions. But how do you use them? Okay, and by using them, all these emotions we have that God gave us, by accepting them and by using them right, that's how we're able to take our humanness, right, our humanity, and elevate it to a higher level. So to not face reality that we do have hate within us, that we are created with hate, with that emotion, it's part of human nature, is not, tu fais pas face at your humanness. You're not coming in touch with being a human. But by facing that, yes, we do have hate. But if you take your hate and you go and you destroy, then that's a bad hate. If you take that hate and you see it's constructive hate, if by hating, by putting those emotions based on love, of course, and you see that it's having a ripple effect, a good ripple effect, then you know you're doing something good. So hate could be used for the good too.
Constructive hate. Okay.
Constructive hate, obviously. Okay. So here is, what is the difference between the two tzaddikim? What's the difference between a tzaddik viralai and a tzaddik v'tevlai? But where does the difference express itself? That's what I meant.
The incomplete tzaddik doesn't hate as much as the complete tzaddik.
The incomplete, very good, Cheryl. The incomplete tzaddik doesn't hate as much as a complete tzaddik, doesn't hate evil as much as a complete tzaddik. So where does it play a difference is by the hate towards things that are not. That means his fight for evil will be greater. For me, the biggest example of hate, of good hate, is people that did huge revolutions against things that started. They took that emotion of hate and they stood up and fought. It's hate and fighting goes together. They fought against injustice. They hated injustice. So too tzaddikim that are really great for me. My biggest tzaddik that I know that I'm a little bit connected to, is the Rebbe. The Rebbe hated evil. He fought evil. How did he fight evil? By adding positive, but he hated evil. He didn't want evil to exist.
But without rejecting anyone.
Without rejecting anyone, but he put people into their places. He wasn't scared of putting, for sure he put people into their places. What does it show when he put people into their places? It showed that he put away their evil within them. If you don't put people into places when you see something wrong, you're being loving, right? You don't want and I have that I don't know how to hate healthy. I don't know how to do that. Sometimes I can see someone doing something wrong, but I'm too scared to say what I think. But if you know how to use, and by reading this, I was like, wow, because I didn't realize that hate was an actual emotion we have to use. But when I reread that, when I looked up, I had help from my brother-in-law, my sister, who showed me different sources that hating is actually good if done well. I was like, wow, okay, now I'm going to work on that. So tzaddikim.
Je trouve toujours pas correct qu'on ait choisi ce mot-là.
But that's the word. That's the word. It's just misused in the world.
En hébreu, c'est vraiment le mot.
Sina.
C'est vraiment
Oui.
sina.
C'est sina. It is the word, and it is translated differently in Torah. Okay, so tzaddikim who are higher, who are tzaddikim gamur, will have a bigger hate, cannot tolerate evil, and will fight it, which is good. Which, when you think about it, why should we tolerate evil? Why should we tolerate? No one should tolerate evil. So, but we do. Exactly. We're human, and we're not tzaddikim, and we do tolerate it. What is the fundamental tenets of, I think I spelled that wrong, tenets of Judaism. And that's important to know because we spoke a lot about hate. C'est quoi la fondamentale de judaïsme? Qu'est-ce que le judaïsme il tient sur quoi?
Les fondations du judaïsme?
Exactement.
C'est quoi?
We spoke about it in the beginning of the class. What's the fundamental tenets of Judaism?
It's to love one's fellow like oneself.
Exactly,
Yeah.
to love one's fellow. So all this knowing that hate is all based on the fundamental tenets of Judaism, which is loving another and loving God and all of his creation. So that's all based, this hate is all based on the fundamental knowledge that Judaism is all about loving God and loving his creation. Okay, where in the Torah does God talk about hate? Okay, so that's where we spoke about there's hating Amalek, and there's hating sinners, and hating wickedness. Okay, those are 3 places. There might be more places, but there's not, I don't think there is, because wherever I looked for sources, those were the 3 main things. There's hating Amalek, hating sinners, and hating wickedness. Okay, and it's huge because not often do we learn that the Torah talks about hate. But so for me, it was even if I knew it, it was an eye opener. I never dwelled into it.
He asked us to hate Amalek.
He says to eradicate Amalek, to erase, but not to forget. Okay, so it's a different kind of hate. It's a hate where you remember that what Amalek did,
Yeah.
and you erase them.
Not forget.
Hating sinners.
Yeah.
Is you just it says to hate a sinner. I don't have the
Dans
pasuk
la Torah, ça dit ça? C'est que hate
exactly, and then another Mishle says hate wickedness.
Bon, là encore, il faut définir c'est quoi la...
Matt, that's what we learn. Why is it important to hate? Dorit, I'm gonna ask you, why is it important to hate?
No, I cannot answer this question.
Why is it? Anybody can tell me why?
3 ou 4 cours encore pour me
C'est
convaincre.
dur, hein? Why is it important to hate?
To keep away from evil.
Exactly. Not to feed love to the forces that will destroy it. It's important to hate in order not to feed love to the forces that will destroy it. It's important to hate in order to fight evil. Okay, it's the same thing. And again, sinners and wickedness, it's very differently how we define it. The Torah really defined the real sinner as someone who's very knowledgeable, who was rebuked, warned not to do it, and still sins. Okay, and it's very hard today to find real sinners according to the Torah. Okay, so, and even with that, the Torah says even a sinner, you should go and help them. Even your enemy, someone who has some sinful or wicked action, you could never even if you hate them, you push them away and whatever. If you see them suffering, you go help them. If you see that they lost an object, you go and you return it to them. Those are the 2 pasuk that talks about people that are sinners or your enemies. So how can we differentiate healthy hating to destructive hate?
The actions, like...
How could you differentiate healthy hating to destructive hate? Okay, I want you guys to think about it.
actions, because healthy hating, you don't go in actions. You just step away and keep the evil like far away from you. Versus where you go with destructive, it's like you're doing actions like literally.
Well, you can do actions for healthy hating. You can go and stick up for yourself and stick up for what you believe is true.
No,
That's action.
C'est action?
Yes.
Okay.
So how I would see it, anybody else want to say?
Healthy hating is putting a barrier between yourself and something bad, something evil.
Okay. So anybody else? So how I see it, healthy hating is when it's based on love. There has to be love.
Mm-hmm.
Pointless and destructive hate is when it's pointless and senseless. There's no love. There's no how do you call it? There's no logic to it. It's called sinat chinam, free hate. Okay? There's no reason why you hate. If you have, I'm not saying if you have a reason to hate that it's going to be a good, healthy hating. Healthy hating has to be based on someone you really love, and because you love them, you know that you have to hate them outwardly, not in your heart. It says never to hate someone in your heart, but outwardly hate them by putting healthy barriers. But senseless hate is if you hate inside your heart and you go and you destroy and you hurt someone. That's senseless. That does not bring any good. And you're consumed by your hate. To be consumed by your hate is not good. And by eliminating hate from the world, this will not make the world a better place. So we have to know that by sticking up for what we believe is true, by putting boundaries, by defending and rebuking the people that are destroying maybe and doing the wrong hate, that is going to help the world, not the opposite, not by embracing evil. So I hope you enjoyed this class. I know I did it. We did some of Tanya, but I really derived a little bit off of Tanya because I needed to understand hate, especially like Dorit said. For me, it was hard to understand that a tzaddik could hate. But when I understood that the real meaning of hate, I realized that it's actually healthy to hate, and by removing it, we could do. Amanda just came. We just finished. By removing hate, we could actually do more damage than by using it in the right way. So keep that in mind. It's something important for your health, for your inner world, and for the outer world. And I hope you guys all have a really good week.
Hey, does
Thank
she
you
have
very
the
much,
baby with her?
Sterna.
Yeah, Amanda, they want to see the baby. They're on